Good morning. Good morning. Morning. Today we are doing our first story time. So we are going to Buenos Aires, Iguazu, Guatemala, and the Antarctica. So that is exciting. So tag along and we'll see where we'll end up. Okay, so before we jump into this video, I have to say I messed up. I keep saying in the video that I've been to Guatemala. I've never been to Guatemala. However, I have been in Uruguay. So every time I say Guatemala, please think of it as Uruguay. Okay? Welcome back to normal life. It's just me, but I am glad that you met my twin. When you have enough spare time, you can grow a twin. Anyway, it is time for story time because I told you that I wanted to see if I can look up some old videos from my earlier trips and then we can have a little story time. And I did find some videos. First one is kind of a big one. First thing first, in 2014, this was in, I would say March maybe, February, March. I was about to move into my new apartment. And the week before my moving date, my job lost their license because I was working at an exchange office. We exchanged money and that kind of stuff, and they lost their license, their permit, so they had to close down. And we didn't know if someone else would buy the company or if they would just have to shut down. So I had to call my future landlord and tell them to cancel my apartment contract because I didn't know if I had a job. So I was feeling kind of miserable. I knew that I had to stay at my parents' place for at least 6 months because it is hard to find apartments. And then I figured, well, if it's gonna be like that, I might as well just try and save some money and do something fun. And a couple of weeks later, someone did buy the company, so I had my job. So I stayed at my parents' place. I started to save up a whole lot of money and asked myself, what is on the top of my bucket list? That is. So I booked a trip to Antarctica. I booked the ticket and my trip was about to start in December. And I'm not kidding, 1 week before my departure date, I got an email from the company. It was a Swedish travel agency, and they told me that, oops, the ship that you're going with has like a motor, like an engine failed. They don't have an engine, and they don't have time to get spare parts for the engine, so we might have to cancel your trip. I'm like, are you shitting me? So instead of going with the Swedish travel agency, I was going to go with Quark Expeditions. And I can highly recommend that company because they were awesome. And to make it even better, instead of having to share a cabin with 3 other people like I was supposed to do before and stay like below deck, I got my own room. I had the best view. I had a double, like a queen size bed all to myself, shower, and that was a whole lot more money that I actually paid for. So thank you, world, for messing my original ship up, because this was way better. So I was all set. I could fly to Argentina and start my adventure because I also had some other things planned. So I landed in Buenos Aires. I went to my little bed and breakfast and did some sightseeing. It is a big city. It's a very chaotic, stressful city. But I managed to find some really nice places. Like this is kind of odd, but my favorite place in Buenos Aires is the Recoleta cemetery. It is huge. It is like its own little village with these houses for graves. what do you call it, like mausoleums, and they're just big, and there's a lot of them. And the creepy part is that some walls are like half torn down, so you actually see the caskets. You can even see bones in some places, so it is beautiful, but it is spooky. And that was my favorite part of the city because it was really calm and quiet and peaceful and scary. But I knew that I couldn't spend 5 days just in Buenos Aires because I would go crazy. I went to the airport, took the plane. I flew to Iguazu, which is one of the 7 natural wonders in the world, and I get why. And on the way, the pilot actually flew. They're not supposed to do that, but I bet he does this with everyone. But I felt special. Or he flew us over the falls back and forth so you could see it from above, and oh my god, it is huge. I went to the Argentinian side of the falls. You can also go to the Brazilian one. I had a guide who met me, and she walked with me for half of the day and showed me the falls and told me some facts about it. And it is hard to try and imagine how big it is, how impressive and powerful it is, because there is water everywhere. Like whatever direction you're looking at, there's a huge ass waterfall, or 5 of them, just crashing into the same pool. So definitely go there. So I did some sightseeing with her, and then she dropped me off at the bottom because you could take a boat and you could actually ride into the waterfall, like right underneath it, which was that noise. Whoa. And I actually have a video of that, so look at this. So yeah, I got pretty wet, but it was worth it. So after the boats, I was on my own. So I had a couple hours where I could just walk around. I found another waterfall. I found these cute animals that I don't know what they are, but they were cute. These ones were at the restaurant, so they were stealing food from everyone. And a lot of people were just scared of them. I was just really fascinated about them. I was like, come here, I'll give you some food. No, I did. And Oh my god, I found these little creatures, and I called this movie A Cuteness Crossing. Right? A day after that, I met another girl at breakfast at my bed and breakfast, and we decided that we were going to go to Guatemala, which is just over the bay. The bay, I think it's the bay. So you just take a boat. It's a couple hours, and you're in Guatemala. So I went there with her and another guy. We just did some sightseeing, had lunch, and then went back. Like, it was perfect. And it was a very nice little town. I don't remember the name of it, but I think it's this. Very old and very charming and friendly. So if you're in Buenos Aires and you have too much spare time, you should definitely take the boat over. Okay, enough of this. Let's get to the point. Antarctica. I took the plane from Buenos Aires to Ushuaia, which is the most southern city in the world. And when we landed, you could see all the snow-covered mountains, and it was pretty chilly, but it was so beautiful. And I just kept thinking, holy shit, I'm actually doing this. I'm actually doing this. It was a strange feeling being in Ushuaia, because there's like a special light in Ushuaia. And I don't know what it is, but it's special. And knowing that I'm going to take a boat, I'm going to go in that direction. I can't see anything right now, but in 2 days, I'm going to be at the end of the world. It's mind-blowing. I got on the boat, the ship. I found out that I was going to have my own room, which, God sent. And we had like, it was a big ship. And we had an information meeting where they went through all the security information and itinerary and all that. And they told us that when you go back to your room now, you have to Drake-proof your room. What is that? Well, we are going over the Drake Passage for 2 days. And it's gonna be a bumpy road. So whatever you had lying around on a table or a bench or whatever, put it in drawers, because they are gonna fall off whatever they're lying on. And everything was okay until like during the night, because oh my god, it was rough sea. I was so seasick. I had some pills from Sweden, but they did not work. You needed stronger stuff for this. I was not feeling my best. I didn't throw up. I worked my damn hardest not to throw up. But when you were lying in bed, which I mostly did, whenever the boat went down from the wave, you lifted from the bed. And it was awful. And you still had to go to these meetings because you needed to try out jackets and boots. And I just remember I heard they were saying on the telecoms, like, meeting starts in 20 minutes in this room. Make sure you show up because you need to try out clothes. I was like, oh, I had the anxiety of having to get up, walk through the hallway and not throw up. But morning number 2, I woke up. I looked out my window and it was all white. There were snow and ice everywhere, and it was so beautiful. Magical. So I went to have breakfast, and then we went on to do our first excursion for the day. So what we did is that we paired up in two. Half of the group went on the land, on the ground, and spent an hour on the ground, and the rest of the group were in the Zodiac boats, going around on the water, looking at icebergs and animals and all that. So I was in the second group, and I was on the last boat, and I barely got in the boat, left the ship, and people just started like screaming and shouting, and it was three whales, humpback whales, and they had a baby, and the baby was just playing around, like waving at us, and like right at the boat, and it was so surreal, because this is where they live, this is their home, and that's how it all started. That was my first impression of the Antarctica, playing humpback whales amongst the icebergs. Like, what? Then we switched, so the other group went to go on the ground, and the other one went back to the ocean. And there were penguins everywhere. Everywhere. And we got instructions that we are not allowed to touch the penguins. If the penguins come at you, fine, but don't try and pet them or anything like that. And there are penguin highways. Yep, that's a thing. Penguin highways. And do not interfere with the highways, because they need to go places. And they are not at all scared of humans, because we are not a threat to them. And it's funny because we get all these instructions about how not to get close to the penguins, give them some space, and they they don't care. They're just like, hello, what are you? You're a person. Let me look at you. And you see penguins coming sliding down the hills on the way to the water or whatever. I mean, they can bump into you if you're in their way, because like sometimes you don't even know that there's a penguin coming at you. And they're just like clowns. They're just so adorable. So we did two of those every day, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. And every day we went to another location. So every morning we woke up at a different place, and every place was just more beautiful than the other. When we were not doing excursions, we were watching movies in their big assembly room, I guess you can call it. Or there were people holding seminars, because amongst all the cruise ship and the guides, you had scientists and you had like biologists and all kinds of different smart people. So every day there was something that you could learn. And I love that it's not just a tourist thing for you to see animals and all that. It's also for you to learn about it. And they had karaoke nights, and you could also just get out on deck. They actually encourage you to go out on deck as much as you could, because you see a lot. There were whales everywhere you could see, and you can see all these icebergs. And okay, let's talk about the icebergs. They are, oh my god, they're so big. I mean, some of them, you don't even think of them as icebergs. You think that, oh, that's a part of land. Like, no, that's just ice. We actually saw on our first days a really big iceberg. And the guy who was driving the boat, he said, oh, you think this is big now? You should have seen it 2 weeks ago. Then it was double the size. Because that monster was big enough to have its own lake at the top. What? But yeah, then during those 2 weeks, it split in half, so who knows where the other went. But it's just madness. So every day we saw penguins, seals, whales, all these different birds, icebergs, and just a nature that is unbelievable, darn beautiful. And it wasn't that cold. People always ask me like, oh my god, how cold was it? But this was in December, so spring was on its way, and we did have a lot of clothes on us, but the sun was shining every day, and it was, I don't really know how cold it was, but I would say it was maybe 2 or 3 degrees cold Celsius, not more than that. I did the polar plunge, and it was cold. There were a lot of people doing the polar plunge that year. I think it was close to 70 people, and they were all lining up inside the ship waiting to climb the ladder down to jump in the ice cold water. And of course, I was like the second to last. So I got to see everyone doing it. I got to hear their screams, see how much they shivered afterwards. And I had so much doubt whether or not I should actually do this. But I did it. And you get a rope around your stomach for security reasons, I guess. And there's also a boat further out. And everyone was trying to jump in the water, swim out to the boat, tap it, and then go back. And I was sure I was going to do it, 100%. I jump in the water, and my eyes go straight into survival mode. I was like, you need to get out of this water. You're dying. So I just went straight up, rushed into my room, put on the hottest water in the shower, and just tried to go back to life because it was so cold. But I'm so happy I did it. I even have a certificate that I did it.
Dude, I saw the video of you rolling, man. You couldn't do that when I was there? You gotta do it again tomorrow now. Look at Dave.
And then later that evening, we were having barbecue out on deck. And at that time, we were going through the La Mer channel. La Mer, I think it's French. It was so gorgeous. You have all the ice on the water, and you have the mountains, and everything is reflecting into each other, and it's just so pretty. It is so beautiful. I keep saying it's so beautiful, it's so magical, but it is. I don't know if I can make up another word for it. It is just out of this world. And there was actually a male penguin. I can't remember what they called him, but he had a name. It was like Bobby or Freddie or something. He was I don't remember what kind of penguin he was. He's the guy with the hairstyle. It's a sad story because normally they stay in pairs their whole life. And this guy he couldn't find a girlfriend. I think one year he had a girlfriend, but the next year she didn't show up, so they don't know if she died or if she got a divorce. But he's been alone for a long time, and he keeps hanging out with the other penguins. And whenever the guides see him, they say on the walkie-talkie, like, well, Freddy's here. That's why they call him Freddy, because they don't want to say what kind of penguin it is, because then everyone would just rush there and, squish him. So they want to try and give him some privacy, but we saw him and it was kind of sad. He just wants a girlfriend. So I hope he found one. And we did manage to see some hatchlings because it was the season. It was still a bit too early to see all the baby penguins, but we did manage to see, I think, one or two. But there were eggs everywhere. It was probably the best week of my life. And on the way back over the Drake Passage, I talked to the doctor of the ship, and I told him that, look, I need something stronger. Can you hook me up? And he gave me seasickness pills that actually worked. I could function as a human on my last days. So thank you for that, doctor, because those are pretty big waves, I'm telling you. So I got back to Ushuaia, jumped on the plane up to Buenos Aires, changed the airport because there are two in Buenos Aires. I had to wait for my flight back to Sweden. And this is a little extra bonus feature, gossip, whatever. I had to wait for a couple hours, so I was just sitting at the little cafe close to the gate. I think I was reading the Kurt Cobain biography, the book. And I saw this guy that I recognized because he's an actor. And I've seen him in movies. I've also seen him in Berlin, because when I was living in Berlin, my parents came and visited. And we took one of those boats on the river, looking at tourist attractions. And he was on the same boat. He was in front of me. And now we were going to go on the same plane. We didn't say anything to each other. But we were like doing this little hi to you gesture. And it was so funny that I met him twice now. If you've seen the Bourne movies, which is one of the better ones, like one of the best ones, he's in those. Flew back to Sweden just in time to celebrate Christmas. I think I got home around the 22nd or something, so right on time. But that is my first story time. I hope it ended up okay. hopefully there will be a next one. The next one will be Venezuela and Panama. So I will see you in Venezuela. Ciao. Or bye. Or ciao. It's ciao, right? Ciao.
Water for a while and then it gets tilted